Welcome to the DevReady Podcast. We'll be helping non-techs build better tech. Today, we're joined by Neel Bhattacharya. She is a consultant at Infosys, looking at UX and also CX, so how we can actually improve the customer experience and also the UI within solutions as well. Neel, thanks for joining us.
Thank you, Andrew. Thanks for the glorious introduction as well.
I appreciate it. So before we dig in, I like to always get an understanding of, or for our audience, who we're talking to, a bit of your background and experience in the space.
Absolutely. So currently I'm working with Infosys Consulting for about close to 4 years now. And I'm consulting the big fives, the big fours, and tech telecoms on their CX and the marketing strategies. But before that, I was with Western Union companies like IBM, Dell, and throughout the marketing space, consulting or working along with the teams on the CX and the UX space.
Oh, very good. So a lot of the big end of town. So in terms of CX, it's always a question, in your words, what is CX, so people get an understanding of what that actually means, and sort of explain what that process could mean for a business or someone building a product going through that customer experience journey.
I think those letters are thrown out a lot, but a lot of people don't actually know what it is.
Yeah, absolutely. So what I usually come across and how these organizations use CX, customer experience, customer service interchangeably, and that is something I have, a great objection to, because they're similar, but they're not the same. So the term which is widely used essentially in the SaaS world, that is called the customer experience. And in my opinion, it is just an impression you leave with your customer, based on how they think, how they feel when they interact with your organization or digital space, based on whatever product you have. And later you can get on to more serious customer journey mapping platforms or whatever you may call it. But the basis of it is just an experience. And there are some activities which are associated with customer experience, and that might help us identify what is CX versus what is customer service. And those would be the support channels, like doing the NPS scores for the customers to know how they feel about it, or minimizing the friction while they're in the checkout process. From if you have a digital transaction going, and building the policies, practicing positive communication, and so on.
Yeah, so obviously experience is something you mentioned NPS scores, but how do we really understand how a customer is experiencing our brand or our business? It's probably a question that people would like to think about, especially if they're starting out or thinking about it conceptually. How would they manage this from understanding the way the customer experiences their business?
Yeah, sure. So to answer this question, probably what we need to do is, if once the product is built, once the company is on a platform to launch or has just been launched, to get one of these, customer experience tools, and they just assist. They will probably assist the entrepreneur to understand how to measure the impact of what they are doing with their customers. And there are definitely those really the big tools available in the market, something like Zendesk, Salesforce, and so on. But for startups, probably I would suggest something which is like just as basic as a survey. So SurveyMonkey has launched one of their platforms, and that's called SurveyMonkey CX, if I'm not mistaken. That will allow these companies to survey their customers. If they sell a product, maybe just send out the survey to see how they feel. And SurveyMonkey is quite intuitive enough to have these 10-pointer questions, which we could edit or customize based on whatever product you're offering, and then give it off to your customers. And also there's something like a tool called Delighted. So if these tools allow if you can set up intuitively within your digital platform, you can just send it out for service to your customers, and that will solve the purpose.
It's just as simple as sending out a survey and getting some feedback from your users to be able to gauge how they feel.
Absolutely, absolutely. But if you definitely have deep pockets and you want to explore more and in the full range of customer experience, you can go with something like Zendesk. It has a full service CRM platform. It is built on AWS. It will allow you to do all these parameters, like have a live chat, sales CRM function, which is very intuitive, very much like Salesforce. And then you have analytics, you have reporting, but totally depends on the budget and also the basic needs. Because for a startup, you might not need like a full scale of robust platform, but what you need to do is to maximize the potential of any small tool that you can implement and get results out of that.
Okay. What would you say would be like the key difference then, say, between good customer service and what customer experience is? Is the experience what you get from good customer service, or are they separate and more separated than that?
So good customer service and the good customer experience would, again, as I said, that these two terms are interchangeably used. But customer experience would be the impression you leave with your customers, whereas customer service is a part of the entire customer experience. So it is, I think, a sub product of the customer experience, wherein the whatever the interaction points of the customer are, be it digital, be it like a phone call with a customer service agent, be it a video call, it is just those interaction points how that is captured. But that's not a holistic platform on its own.
Yeah. So then that would even cover, say, touch points, so notifications, emails, SMSs, or things like that. So anytime you're interacting with a customer, not just when it's a face-to-face agent or a person.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Okay. So I think, a lot of people probably get them, like you said, they use them interchangeably and they get mixed up what it actually means or how to measure it properly. So using some of those tools should definitely then put you in the right direction to just ask those questions and then illuminate some of these things for you.
Yes, absolutely. So that is the whole point of having some metrics in place, because they can loosely guide the entrepreneur, the businessman, in the right direction. And if there are gaps, then you can know what actions to take to fulfill those gaps.
On the metrics you mentioned there, what sort of things as a business should we, at least minimum 3 to 5 things, should we be starting with to track around the experience and the journey that a customer has with us?
Absolutely. So, in terms of metrics, like the one I just pointed out, that is a survey. So, survey allows the organization to know the NPS scores, and based on the answers of the survey, you can, have like a benchmark for your organization that works, and have questions like out of 10. If they are more than 8, then you can probably give yourself a higher NPS scores, as opposed to if you get a score of less than 4, then you could give yourself a lower NPS score. But definitely does not have to be a questionnaire of 10. You can also have something like a question how good your experience was. You can have 5 stars, 4 stars, 3 stars. So NPS probably is something which I would recommend organization to start off with. An average score, say below 7, would suggest you are having serious customer experience issues, and you need to go and see the entire supply chain or the entire chain to see whereon you can pick up the thread and revamp the services. And then there are other CSAT scores, which essentially is a conduct customer satisfaction surveys, which are on a periodic basis, just ensures the positive performance. Then you have average customer lifetime value. This is for more established businesses, for businesses who are in business or in service for more than 6 months to a year, because then they would know if what the customer churn is like, how many people are staying with the customer, what the customer loyalty is like, and if they are referring new customers and all. And of course, there's return rates to suggest that the higher than average return rates suggest that your customer experience isn't giving customers the information they need to make a decision.
Okay. I was going to say, what is the NPS score? I'm not familiar with that term.
Yes. So an NPS score is essentially the satisfaction score. I can't really recall because we use NPS so extensively. Uh, it is
I
what
think
the
it's.
full form of.
I googled it in the background, so I pretended that
Oh,
I knew it. It's
awesome.
a net promoter score.
Oh,
So,
yes. Yes.
yes, I imagine that's how, like, from 1 to 10, how would you promote all our products and services to your friends? That might be one simple question around that to give you a bit of an understanding. But that's what I assume it would be.
Yes. Yes, it is.
Yeah. Perfect.
Pardon my fuzzy
That's
brain.
Oh, that's
okay.
okay.
When we use acronyms, and it always, we
No,
lose
I'm sure there's a few other
train of
people
what it
listening,
is.
unlike like me, who don't know what it is.
Yeah.
Okay, so
Same boat over here.
getting those metrics in place will give you a clearer picture of how customers feel about your business, if they'd refer you or recommend you to their friends or family or other people. And then what does that as an overall, how useful is that to your business, would you say? Or like, what can you use that to drive forward with?
So NPS scores give an understanding to the business based on what the question is. So if you're just depending on the 5-star, 4-star, 3-star reviews, then you would know where exactly the problem is. So these are the customers you need to watch out for. You need to go out to them with, say more detailed service to understand where exactly what the problem was. Was the problem with the product? Was the problem with the whole experience they had while they were ordering the product? Was the problem with the receiving the product? Maybe there was a delay. So you need to pinpoint based on the service to know where the problem was and then address the issue. So NPS score is just a starting point to help organizations understand where the issue is and what they can do to mitigate those issues.
Oh, okay, so that's the thread you're pulling that you mentioned earlier. So just point in the right direction. Gives you some clarity on something that you might not have known if you hadn't gone through that process.
Absolutely.
A term in this area I've heard is the value chain, how you manage the customer through the value chain in the business. And that might be specific areas of the business where they go from early stage pre-sales to onboarding to support, interacting with accounts. All these bits and pieces are part of the value chain, and then one thing may fall down. How do we look at strategizing this as a business holistically and understanding all the little bits that a customer may interact with? What areas should we be focusing on first? Because some of this stuff may take time. What would you recommend there?
In terms of the value chain, I think the first step is to understand what are the kind of people and personas you're catering to. So persona is a term we use in CX a lot, but essentially it is the kind of people you're catering to, what kind of business you have, and then understand and then break down the entire process into small bits and pieces to see how you're fulfilling those needs. For example, you need data such as age, gender, location, the habits of the people you're catering to, their interest, and knowing all these information about your customer will just help you customize your product, your services, your communication to these people in a more holistic way. And it will help you allow you to know their pain points and then how to cater to their pain points, how to deliver a solution to them. So I think the first step, while understanding, or if you want to break down the entire value chain, to know is how can you create personas out of your customers. For example, an exercise we do quite often is to personify the target audience. For example, if the target audience is a middle-aged person living in a urban city of Australia, we will call that guy Brad and see how does Brad's life look like. Brad has 2 kids. Brad has a dog. Brad has a house in the suburbs. Brad commutes, drives down to work, or he takes the train. What does Brad like? He drinks coffee. He likes wine. So things like that. We'll personify Brad and see where our products fits into Brad's lifestyle. And then cater the communication to see what Brad's checking out so that we know exactly how to reach out to Brad. and so on. And based on personification of that customer, then the next step for us is to go and create probably a journey map to see, okay, what does Brad do on a day-to-day basis? Where does he stop? And when Brad wants to buy our product, and for hypothetically, let's say I'm selling mobile devices, all right, or so I want to know a mobile device is probably a mobile cases, right? I want to know what are the colors Brad needs, what are the functionality in a mobile case Brad would need. Brad uses it in the car, puts it in his pocket. How does that look like for Brad? And then based on that, create a map. And then based on what his interests are, for leisure, like he would read a tech magazine, I would go and advertise there. I would go and advertise, do adverts or ads on places where Brad goes to. And based on that, I'll complete that journey for Brad. And then and millions of other customers who are like Brad, who we want to reach out to. That would probably set us a clear goal for how we are attempting to do that.
I always just on the personas, I always find that quite fascinating. How you get to a persona. So can you explain that a little bit on how you might get to defining Brad per se? What process do you go down to get that clear in your mind? Because I think you mentioned one thing there quite interesting that I haven't heard specifically before is you're going to advertise in the places that Brad hangs out in, not relative to your product, but what he's actually engaging in around his lifestyle. So how do you get to the definition of the personas? Is that just research surveying? What do you generally do in that space?
Actually, mix of all of it, and also it has a fair bit of intuition, added to that. If I have a product which is something like a agronomic baby carrier, then I would target age groups where people have little kids and would need to use the baby carrier. So I would probably target people between 25 to 35 and see what their average lifestyle is like. For example, people who have already had children before, they would sometimes rely on using hand-me-downs. But people who have first-time parents would want to have the best for their baby. And if my product is launching at the time of the birth, that is when I would love to target. Then also in terms of if my product is launching 3 months down the line, I want to see where the parents are, where are these moms to be hanging out. So I would go and advertise any of these places where the moms to be are hanging out. For example, a cafe, mom groups, or maybe at the caregiver, near the caregiver, near the hospitals. So any of these places where moms to be hang out, I would want to advertise. I would like to advertise to the young dads as well. Dads to be where they hang out, what they do for leisure. Do they play tennis? Do they watch movies for fun? So most of these places, and if they are online, people do spend a fair bit of time online these days. What are the channels they would love? Is that Facebook? If that's Facebook, is there any particular group which I can target? So there's so many groups. If you see the subgroups, which are mom groups, mom to be, babies in say 2022 babies group, things like that. So I want to target such groups and want to ensure that when I'm advertising, for example, if I'm doing a Facebook retargeting ad, these are the channels I select, so they are advertised well. So based on that, if I create, go on, diving deeper, I would know what exactly this person, I'll call her, say, Rosalie, and I will know what Rosalie likes, what who she hangs out with, her friends' age group. Is she attending? What does she love to wear? If she, is a avid shopper, does she shop digitally, or does she go to the shops, window shopping? So I would target all those channels, what she loves, and what does Rosalie's husband do? So that would be another persona, because he would follow his own lifestyle and patterns. So based on that, there would be a pattern. If I draw Rosalie, after doing this exercise for some time, I would know exactly what the preferences are. And based on that, I will select the channels for Rosali, for Brad, and so on. And if there are any other takers, for example, if grandparents play a decision-making role while purchasing, if an agronomic career is also a part of your gift for your nursery, so I want to ensure that we are a part of that as well. Does that answer your question?
It does, yeah.
Yes,
So it's
it's
about
very
painting a
thorough.
picture. Yeah, it's about painting a picture of who a customer might be. And I think that all goes back to what the product is. Is it an upmarket product? Is it a medium, lower end? And I think that will probably frame the personas as well. So there's plenty in that. And I think is it a bit of intuition as well as to what the customers may like, or how do you get to? There's no one answer as this group online that I can find, but like, what is it that drives that? Is it the research behind it? What research gives you those little jigsaw puzzles, really putting it together to
Yeah,
paint a picture of the
absolutely.
person?
But one thing I would love to add is while doing a persona, there's no single persona for one product. For example, if I'm doing one product, there can be like multiple personas at different stages of lifestyle, which would influence. One of the target audience might be a main buyer or purchaser for the product, but there are so many other people who influence who might purchase the product as well. And all of it together would make a persona tree and not just one influencer, I guess.
Yeah, that makes sense because there's never just one persona. That's not going to make any sense at all. But I think it gives you a little bit of context when you go to market to that person because you get a feel and a sense of what they might appreciate and respond to then. And I think, and that all comes down to testing too, right? So you can define these personas, but as you test and build your marketing around these personas, the feedback is anyone drawing attention in through that ad? One would imagine that's your feedback loop, right, where you can then fine tune.
Absolutely, absolutely. And that's where probably as a next step up, your surveys come into the picture, your entire conversation with these personas, because personas are largely make believe. You can do a lot of market research before launching, but there is a lot of hypothetical elements which are involved in the whole process. So once you launch, once the personas are live, then you interact with one of those persona, and they will help you chisel down like what is right, what is wrong, where did they find. So there is one of these typical questions in most of these NPS survey, or whenever you fill like say online questionnaire, you will, where did you hear about us? So that is one question which will help you identify, okay, maybe I was wrong, maybe the person does not visit the Facebook group, so maybe the person does something else. And so those sort of things will help you identify like what was right or wrong, and then you go back and it's an iterative process. You go back and
Yeah, so you test and gauge, you make your assumptions, test the marketing in those specific areas, and then see if it works. If it doesn't, adjust your persona and try again, and just keep doing that until you
yes,
get, I guess, as much coverage as possible on as many people as possible.
absolutely. So persona is something which you do in the start. It's iterative, but at the same time, what these personas do eventually is create a journey map for you, and those journey maps define where all these customers or touch points happen with your company, the interaction points. And those interaction points are something uh, which will tell you whether customer is delighted with the experience, not happy, happy, and where they stand. And then you can go and improve those experiences for them.
Okay.
That's always an interesting topic. So if I were starting out, as a personas is step one, that's where you would start the process and then basically build out a map and a journey as how the customer may interact with the business. And then is it tailoring the experience for the personas or type demographic that you attract, or is that a little bit too far at the beginning? How do you tailor the interactions with particular clients and customers depending on their personas? If we do anyway, I'm not quite sure.
Yes, absolutely. So what personas do is to help an organization or these personas assist with the planning process in terms of help the the business visualize how these personas interact throughout the journey with the business. And then once we reach a point when we are interacting directly with the customers and we have a chance to go back and fix, we also fix in the process, we fix the marketing messages we do with the customer. So the tone of the language we use in the marketing message, because we don't want to use a very casual tone if we are speaking to a banker and writing one of the corporate emails. So based on our product, we'll change the tone. We'll realize that, okay, this is a serious customer. This is not a customer who would like to be greeted with with a, hey, how are you doing? You want something which is a more a tone which is serious. You want to customize your service subject of the email. And similarly, you want to go and I would say rectify or change the different messaging you have. What are the channels we are using? Are you using LinkedIn to promote yourself, or are you using Facebook, or you're using Twitter? If you're doing all three, then what is the tone of language that you're using? Because now these three are so diversified channels. And some also use say TikTok. So depending these personas will help you select your right channel for your right audience, and help you curate the messaging for each of these. If you're writing white papers as opposed to doing videos, then what is the content of the white paper? If you're doing webinar, then it will help you do that.
And I'm guessing there's a lot of like A/B testing inside of all of those as well. Did you get the right message for the right channel?
Absolutely. So CX is entwined to the marketing of the business. It's like just a part of it. So CX is just one part of it, but what it helps eventually is to probably channelize or chisel your marketing.
Yeah, I think it seems when you discuss it and frame it, it all is very intertwined with marketing and how we might market to our customers. But it goes beyond that, because once they are customers, we're engaging with them. So it's still, once they convert from a non-customer to maybe they got some interest in the product or service, then maybe to buying, but then they're a customer now. So it's a whole gamut from start to finish, and how we actually engage with them. So it's a bit more than just marketing for new customers, but it's also engaging them through the process. And I think it's an interesting space. How important do you think this is to businesses to really look at and dig into if they're really going to make a success out of their products? How important is it building a strategy around customer experience along the journey for them?
Yeah, good question. Actually, it's really important. I can't probably emphasize it enough, because the CX is the entire experience of the business. So one part of the CX is definitely going around and finding new customers while you're building out the business. But the more crucial role that CX plays in a business is the retention of the customers or the loyalty of the customers. So if CX is if it's not very well defined, well fleshed out, then you will get businesses. You will definitely get like a first time, whole host of first time customers, but it'll be so difficult for you to retain those customers and keep them in the business and doing repeat business with them, because everybody is at the end of the day, they're all looking for a great experience. They want something new which has not been offered to them before, and to be able to do that, definitely businesses need to set up uptight and then keep offering them new things so that they can keep their interest alive.
And that sells it quite well. And one of the key things you said in there around a metric would be retention, right? So if you're retaining customers and your retention rates are rising, especially in the world of SaaS or technology products, generally you're probably doing a good thing by your customers. If you're going on downhill, that means something's gone awry. So it might be worth looking into your customer experience and customer journey, and understanding that, and maybe surveying, getting a bit of a grip on what the challenges are with customers. So I think there's plenty for people to take away from this episode in terms of what they can actually sink their teeth into in terms of learning about CX. Neel, thanks for joining us. It's been a pleasure talking about customer experience and coming onto the DevReady podcast. Really appreciate your time. And hopefully some people out there can take a little bit of information from this and implement this into their business. So thank you for joining us.
Absolutely. Thanks, Andrew. Thanks,
Appreciate
Anthony.
it, Neel. Thank you.
Thank you.